The name of this lesson is Construct Functions. So what we're trying to do is basically write an equation. We're writing an equation. And we learned that our favorite form of an equation was y equals mx plus b. So we can write y equals mx plus b, or it can be written in function notation as f of x equals mx plus b. The important thing to know is that there's two things we need in order to write an equation this way. We need to know the m, all right, which is our slope, and we need to know what b is. B is our y-intercept. Now, when we're talking about equations, we talk about slope and y-intercept. When we talk about functions, these same things could be referred to as the rate, or the y-intercept could be referred to as the initial value. So in this first problem, they haven't actually asked us to write an equation or a function, but what they have asked us to do is to find and interpret the rate of change in the initial value. So we're trying to find the slope and the y-intercept basically. So we have a shoe store. They offer free points when you sign up for the rewards card. We want to know what that reward plan is, okay? So if we take a look at this graph, we're trying to find what the rate of change or what the slope is. And it's very simple to do that on a graph. We simply do rise over run. And remember that the rise is actually just the change in y, and the run is actually just the change in x. So notice that my rise is from 60 up to 90, so I have a change in y of 30, rise or change in y. And then my run is from 2 over to 4, so my run or my change in x is from 2 up to 4, which is 2. If I simplify 30 divided by 2, I get 15. So what I've discovered is that m equals 15. All right? So what that means is for every pair of shoes that you buy, you get 15 of these reward points. Now, what about the initial value? All right? What can we determine about the initial value? So the initial value is when we haven't bought any shoes yet. So when we haven't bought any shoes, how many points do we have? Well, if we look at the graph, the initial value of the y-intercept is where our line crosses the y-axis. So here is my y-axis. And notice that if I extend this line, it looks as though it crosses right here where y equals 30. So that means my y-intercept or my initial value is 30. So what does this mean? This means that the rate of change is 15, so the amount of points earned for each pair of shoes is 15. I noticed that the initial value is 30. All right, so the initial point, the number of points you earn just by signing up is 30. And then if we were going to go ahead and write this as an equation, it would simply be f of x or y equals 15 times x plus 30, where x is the number of shoes and f of x or y is the number of points that you have earned. So let's recap this really quick. We want to know what the rate of change in the initial value or slope of y-intercept. To do that on the table, we look at the rise and run, which is the change in y over change in x, and we see where our line crosses the y-axis to find our y-intercept or our initial value. Go ahead and try the got it problem, the bottom of that page, page 320, making sure to analyze for the rate of change and the initial value or the y-intercept.